Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the feed. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Good morning, Bellows Falls and Keene, and welcome to the feed. Marty's away this week. She's over in Ireland having a great time, I hope. But we're here this week with Nick Burns and Louise Stonehill. We're going to be talking about Ashuelot concert series. Did I get that right?
You did.
You did.
I did, thank you. First, some local events. The classic movie at the Opera House tonight is Strictly Ballroom. And I don't have a slide. With Marty gone, I'm a little bit beside myself. On Friday, Sweet Baby James is going to be playing in, say, James Taylor look-alike. On the Saturday, Rocky Horror Picture Show is doing a live stand-up. And then on November 2nd, the Climate Future Film Series is starting. And then on November 3rd, what we're going to talk about now is Ashuelot Concert Series. And welcome, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much
much.
for having us.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And you sound unique.
Unique, definitely not unique.
We always get that. People always say to us, "Oh, I love your accent. You're not from round here." And I say, "No, we're definitely not from round here."
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and where you came from and how you got here.
So we are from London and we moved to Keene, New Hampshire in 2016. And we get asked a lot why we moved in that particular direction, and we don't have a good answer other than, for many of us at that stage in life, when you have your first child, you think about moving out of the big city. And we had a international touring career and concert career, and so it didn't really make sense to necessarily be living in one of the most expensive cities in the world when you're performing all over the place. So we wanted to find somewhere beautiful to live with lots of things outside of work that we enjoy, and that's what brought us to the area. I think just to put ourselves down squarely in the northeast.
Yeah, I think the northeast is one of the nicest places to raise children. I moved from Dallas up here for a similar reason. It was like we wanted to be somewhere where we could raise our children and it would be nice, and so here we are.
Yeah, and even inside classical music, it's a very unique geographical situation up here, because we're literally halfway between New York and Montreal, and packed in that are all sort. I mean, there's an awful lot of concert series and colleges with music programs, and there was lots of potential opportunity. So that was partly behind our thinking too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your personal experience as doing concerts or play?
Well, we were in London for 14 years, and our concert career was very varied. I mean, we, towards the end of those 14 years, we were doing a lot of chamber music. But before that, preceding that, I was playing with all the London orchestras, and I was touring internationally as well. And we were doing BBC Radio 3 broadcasts. I was recording at Abbey Road Studios. So, there was all sorts in our careers. But primarily towards the end, as I said, we started doing chamber music, and we just completely fell in love with it. And that became our primary source of, what we were doing with our lives. Yeah.
And how did you meet each other then?
That's a great question.
We met, first of all, in the intermission of a concert. I went to see the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra perform, and Louisa was playing in that orchestra as an undergraduate already. So we met very briefly then, and then we studied together. We did our last year of graduate studies together in London, so that's how we originally met.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And we've been together ever since, and this is our 20th season performing together as well. So,
Nice.
In our previous life, we did a lot of violin and piano recitals under the name Steinberg Duo, which takes after Louisa's original family name.
Oh, okay.
My original family.
And then, these days we tend to be doing all sorts of mixed chamber music through our work with Ashuelot concerts.
Yeah.
So Ashuelot concerts then, how did it form, and what's your mission? 'Cause I have to admit, I just your webpage is how I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, of
really
course.
extensive.
So we
Yeah.
have two.
Yeah.
We have two main programs at the moment. The first is a international chamber music series, and the purpose of it really is to take the concert experience that you normally would find in a major metropolitan area on a major concert stage. And because chamber music is small scale, it's portable, and so we have the opportunity to bring it into this incredible rural area. So that juxtaposition is something that is very important to us. It's taking, well, in this case, on November 3rd, we've got the Sitkovetsky Trio. I mean, they are a major international touring piano trio. They perform in the most prestigious concert halls in the world, and over that weekend they're going to be performing in Keene on Friday and then in Bellows Falls on Sunday. And so that is a very, very exciting thing to do, because we're bringing something that one associates with metropolitan areas and we're bringing it into this rural area. So that's one part of the programme. We do currently 18 concerts a year in 4 different venues. And each weekend we bring different artists in. A lot of the time Louise and I are currently on stage performing, but over time we'll have a mixture of different artists coming in to perform. And then a big focus of our work is to take that experience, the live classical music experience, and bring it out into the community where it can do some good. And so right now the biggest part of our programme is before each one of these concert weekends we try and visit 4 local schools.
Oh, nice.
And then the juxtaposition gets even greater, right? So, for example, the Sitkovetsky Trio, the 2 string players, I mean, Alexander Sitkovetsky plays a Stradivarius violin from 1689, I think it is. And Isang Enders, the cellist, is playing a Tononi cello from the 1720, I think it is. So, I mean, like, in their hands are these, like, historic works of art that are incredibly precious, incredibly rare, incredibly valuable. And when we go into a school, that thing is working, it's vibrating, it's producing this incredible sound, and it's as far away from the kindergarten as you are right now.
Oh, wow.
And so they're right
Yeah,
up and close.
Yeah.
So again, you know, it notionally is a musical offering, a musical program, but the focus of that program is not really musical, because something very special happens when you do that. When you take a performance that belongs on, let's say, the stage at Lincoln Center in this case, because that's where they often play, and you take it into a school, well, you know, how do you think the kids react to that? I mean, like, it's a shock. I mean, like, this is not something that they expect to be happening right there, and particularly they expect to come, like, you know, within a few feet of something so precious and valuable as a Stradivarius violin. And so once we've got their attention, that's an opportunity, isn't it? And so what we like to do is we like to talk about, you know, what does it look like to be a professional musician? You know, because, I mean, you know, the word talent gets thrown around, but the reality is much more pedestrian, but it's also much more relevant to the kids in schools, because, you know, our daily life is a daily practice. I mean, we have to practice our instruments. And what that involves is, when you're starting a piece, what most people don't understand is you can't play it, you can't get from start to finish. You know the music that you know, but you know that's maybe this much of the total repertoire that you play in your career. So each year you tackle a whole set of new pieces that you've never played before, and that whole process puts you in the same place as the kindergarten who are struggling to write their name.
Yes, exactly.
So they, you know, like, and I quite often draw those comparisons. I say to the 5th grade, you know, how many of you have to think about writing your name? And they're all sort of smiling and giggling. And then I say to the kindergarten, how many of you have to think about writing your name? Well, you know, when you're just writing your alphabet, writing your name is quite a challenge, you know. And so drawing attention to that learning process is a very important part of what we do right now, because, you know, like, the music itself has a profoundly inspiring effect on these kids. But these kids have challenges which we are very plugged into. So, for example, you know, in our immediate area, one of the test statistics that's concerning is the fact that only 70% of the kids K through 12, roughly, are deemed to be proficient in reading right now. Well, that's a problem that we need to grapple with as a society. But what does that feel like for the kid is what I'm interested in. And I think that feels very much like how I feel when I'm trying to start a new piece, because I know that I can't do it. And so I've got to believe that I will be able to do it, and I've got to take steps every day towards that goal until one day I wake up and suddenly, hey presto, I can do it. And it is kind of hard to understand, because that happens every time. You think, oh, the concert's getting closer, oh, the concert's getting closer, oh, I still can't play it, and then bang, there it is, it's ready to go. And so what we do as musicians is a very transferable and valuable skill, which is we take something that is impossible for us to do, and we turn it into something as easy as writing our name. And that's what then gives us the ability on stage to communicate something more interesting and artistic, because you have to put the notes themselves into your memory so completely that you just feel so totally
exactly add a piece, a feeling. Yes.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening is the kids themselves have a pretty sophisticated response.
Really? Absolutely. I mean, the wonderful thing is about this mission of ours is that for a lot of these children, they've never even heard chamber music, classical music, Beethoven, Brahms. They've never come up close to it. So, the first thing that always happens when we visit one of the schools, if we've got 350 kids in a school gymnasium, I'll take my violin out and I'll just play an open A. I'm just tuning up or something, and the entire room just goes completely silent. And the teachers are looking around saying, what just happened? So it's, they are instantly aware that there is something happening in the room. And it's not that they're just listening to this music, they're actually feeling it. And as Nick said, they are on the floor right in front of me. And for even the most wriggly of child, there's so many of them that just sit there staring up at me. And actually, I have to tell you just this one story. It's so sweet. This little girl who was sitting right on the floor in front of me, and I'm playing away, really doing my thing. And I turn around and I look at her, and she's making the sign of this little heart, and she's going, I love you, while I'm playing. And I just think, okay, my work is done. This is, this is amazing. So she's connecting to the music, to the composers, and to these messages that we are bringing into the schools about the brain, about how to learn, how to be more effective in your building of daily habits, how to strive, how to fail, and that's okay. We all have to pick ourselves up and try again, and you can see the teachers really nodding in appreciation for the messages that we're bringing into the schools. So,
And how many schools do you visit? How often are you playing?
So this program is offered to every school within the geographical area of Keene, because the logistics of trying to pack four into one day.
So would you make it over as far as Bellows Falls?
Yes,
yes. We're in conversation with many of the schools over here,
nice.
So we are hoping to add them to our program.
The Sitkowetsky Trio will be performing in the campus school, for example,
next week
on the Thursday before the next Thursday. So we try and obviously these schools are doing miraculous work. They really do incredible things for these kids, and so trying to slot this in is a challenge. Obviously, they've got big priorities, and this is very much an extra thing. So we work with each school. We offer them 40 opportunities a year. We've never quite got to the 40. I think last season we managed to get to 35 or 36, I think. Yeah. But we're hitting about 5,500 kids in total each
every
season.
Year.
That's amazing.
And the nice thing is that, I was just on the street yesterday and somebody drove past with the window down and this little head shot straight up, because the kids recognise us around town.
They do. And I had a child running up to me the other day who said, I came to your last concert at the Bellows Falls Opera House and that Tchaikovsky was just amazing.
Nice.
From a 9-year-old child. So that was really nice.
Again, just talking about the concerts for a second. Music has an amazing role to play right now, because I think we would all agree that we're living in a slightly synthetic society. And what I mean by that is that the primary means by which we are ingesting information, almost all of us, is digital. And so, that presents kind of new problems which we've not really dealt with, and it's going to get a hell of a lot weirder now that we're entering the sort of artificial intelligence age. So, whether it's text, whether it's a picture, whether it's video, in this case you're watching this on video, what are you really watching? Well, your brain is interpreting ones and zeros, and it's constructing a reality inside your brain. But it's not real. It's not the same as being in person, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that's unique about classical music versus any other genre is there are no microphones. There's no computer chips involved. There's no amplification. There's no synthetic reverb. There's nothing. Literally nothing. And so what happens, or what will happen, for example, next weekend, is if you come to the concert, inside your head will be vibrating a Stradivarius. And that's kind of powerful when you stop and think about it for a minute. And there was a study that was done last year in Austria, which was really fascinating, where they put biometric sensors on the audience in a classical music concert. And what they found was just by force of these vibrations being shared across hundreds of people, certain things happen that are kind of amazing. So everyone's heart rate started beating in time with the music. Everyone's breathing rates synchronized. And even the audience started moving in very subtle ways involuntarily, but in unison. And so that's kind of an amazing thing, because the concert is, asks a lot of an audience. Come to a classical music concert. What are we asking you to do? We're asking you to come and sit in relative discomfort. And you have to sit totally silent because, it's quiet because there's no amplification. So, it's really important that the room is silent because that's where the magic happens, okay? So that's us as musicians asking a lot of the audience. Now, what's the offering in return? Well, this, I think, is really interesting because suddenly you've got a group of people there sitting together in shared discomfort, in shared silence. But then this incredible thing happens. This amazing piece of music kind of goes over all of us. And even as the players, we're part of it too. I mean, our bodies are responding to the music as well. And so we share this kind of thing that is completely unifying for us. And then at the end, we all spontaneously react. And the lovely thing that we've seen now is that, when we started, obviously, our concert audience was both small, and I don't think they'll mind me saying it was relatively elderly. Yeah, so the average age might have been in the high 60s. Over the last few concerts, so for about 18 months now, there hasn't been a single concert where there hasn't been a child there. And the thing that's really interesting is that the children who witness our program in the schools are then dragging their parents to see the real thing, right? And so suddenly, demographically, we've got a complete age range where sometimes the youngest is still a baby, for want of a better word. We have had the odd infant.
Up in the balcony
it's a bit high risk to bring an infant to a concert, obviously, because... But certainly as young as 5, all the way up to 95, right? And then you've got people from all different walks of life. It's been very surprising, actually. Like some of the people who've clocked on to what we're doing and become fans and come every time. And then, of course, you've got people from all sorts of different, belief systems and whatever. And they're all sitting there and they're all unified by this completely uncontroversial thing that is real. That's the thing, it's not synthetic, it's not digital, it's a real vibration that has moved the room, and that, we're human beings, and, it's a live performance, so you never quite know how it's going to go. And that whole thing has somehow had this amazing effect. And so now what we're witnessing is these friendships blossoming around the programme between people who would never have encountered each other before, or in any other context.
Which is just lovely.
And so, those two are very beautiful.
Do you find that unique because of the small towns you're playing in? Is that another part of that? Because you're not playing to a group of, like in London, it would probably, who would go, I'm talking with my hands a lot. Who would go to concerts? I mean, it would probably be a smaller demographic. Whereas here, like you said, it's every walk of life and every age and every occupation.
Yeah.
I mean, the lovely thing about living here is that, we all appreciate the natural beauty of this area because it's kind of awe-inspiring. I mean, you can't look out the window without going, wow, and then of course the change of season. Well, exactly. But the change of every season is a bit shocking, isn't it? You get used to whatever it is, and it's all so different. So that keeps it fresh. And that unites us all as well. And then, yes, I've never thought about it, but, the lovely thing about chamber music was, if you think about it, this music only exists because it was designed to be enjoyed in a domestic setting.
Right.
It was a private thing. And so, from our world in classical music, it's prohibitively expensive and the scale is too big to bring, say, a full-scale opera from the Met, or that's why the broadcasts are so effective, or like to bring a symphony orchestra from London or Boston or something. Well, we can't do that in a small rural community. But what can we do? If the hall is small enough, then chamber music has the same decibel. It's literally as exciting, as loud as a full symphony orchestra, and that's the miracle of it. And then, yes, you're absolutely right. Well, because we're in a small community, suddenly, you see this becomes a sort of social event, and it's a wonderfully democratic and universal one, because it's about music. I mean, music's it's one of the it's a great little fact that human beings, right the way back to the dawn of civilization, even in the most disparate communities, only have one thing in common outside necessities, and that is that they all made music. And that's just amazing, So it's something like it's a need that we all have. So and the fact that the music that we're offering is analog,
right? That's not digital. Right?
I think that's.
Well,
that's
I'm drawn to that whole idea you were talking about the vibrations. Because I remember the first time I saw someone play a cello, it was just like you really feel it. It's just it's phenomenal. It's just. Almost undescribable, and you do that all the time.
Well, I mean, that's the famous quote, isn't it? Music describes that which cannot be put into words, and it is true. I mean, like, the ideas contained within these pieces are too sophisticated to try and explain, and yet when we hear it in concert, we understand it perfectly, and that's what's so moving about it, I think. Is just when it goes right. There's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. And, so one of the lovely things that we do in the schools is we ask the teachers to prepare some feedback for us from the kids and from the staff, actually. We've received some wonderful feedback from the staff, but we get given all these little notes, perhaps the teacher gives a prompt, how did the music make you feel? Or, and I mean, some of the feedback that we receive from the kids is just amazing. I closed my eyes and I could really feel the music. I felt like I had wings and I could fly, and, just all of these incredible things. And, your messages inspired me to try that bit harder in class today, and it's like you say, really, if you're giving them something that they can actually really feel, then they can take that away and think, okay, that was amazing. That was an incredible feeling, and I want to try and replicate that, or reproduce that.
And back to what you were talking about before, also, is your practice. And I don't think I didn't think of that until you said it. But how much do you practice every day?
I mean, we give ourselves 4 hours every morning.
Yeah.
Really?
But that's I would much prefer it to be more than that a day. But of course, the daily administration of running the non-profit, the marketing, the development, and I mean, this is a big undertaking, and Ashuelot Concerts is still very much in its sort of startup phase as a non-profit. So we've existed for 5 years. We got our determination letter with immaculate timing in February 2020, so you can imagine how challenging that was. But this is now, we're just entering the third year of being able to run our programme, which is the International Concert Series and the full schools programme.
Right.
And so last season we reached 8,500 people in total, and then we're hoping to just keep pushing.
Well, in a way, your timing is right for that, because people, because of COVID, people are hungry to get out.
Yes, absolutely.
For quality experience. And
living. And there's the precedent of the Roaring Twenties. I mean, the movie theatre.
Oh yeah.
Where did that exist? Where did that come from? That came from the kind of need to get back together after the Spanish flu pandemic. And jazz. I mean, that again exploded in the 1920s. So. It's interesting, what I'm curious about is, as we enter in, like Apple's just about to release Apple Intelligence, that will get baked into everyone's iPhones from next week. What's that going to what effect is that going to have? We've got no idea what effect that's going to have on communication, on how we interact with each other, but it's not going to be nothing.
Right.
And the one thing that I'm absolutely certain of is that all that does, really, like every other technology, is it puts a premium on genuine human ideas and ingenuity, but more importantly, connection. And we're a inherently social species. We like to be together. We like to have conversations like this, for example. Right. And music enables us to perhaps make connections across a wider divide than a conversation would. And that is a beautiful thing. And the thing that I think is so incredible about chamber music, I mean, in Europe, chamber music is very much the vocational pursuit. So obviously, the orchestras and the opera houses and everything have much more prestige, and it's bigger, isn't it? Yeah. It's a bigger scale, the bigger concert halls, all the rest of it. But chamber music has always been, certainly over the last century, like the real pursuit where, because most of the great composers saved their most profound thoughts for chamber music, and I find that so fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's like they, freed from the obligation of trying to win over a large crowd. When they're just writing for the domestic,
right? Yeah,
they're suddenly free to actually explore, deeper, go deeper, basically.
Wow.
And so it's a very, very intense form of music making. But from the audience's point of view, the lovely thing about this program and the venues that we choose is they're all relatively small. And so really, one comment... So
it's very intimate,
Last month, we were just playing the two of us, and one of the schools said... one of the teachers came on and said, hands up who couldn't believe there were only two people on stage. And every single kid, their hand just shot up. Because it's so big.
Yeah.
I hate to cut you off because I'm enjoying this conversation, but he's telling me we have 1 minute left before we will be cut off. So thank you again. And
thank you very much for coming on.
And good luck with your concerts.
Thank you.
It's going to be in Bells Falls on Sunday the 3rd, and I hope you'll make a point of attending. Until then, next week, the feed.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music, my God.